All right. And we are live. Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody in. Are we going? Yeah, we're going. We're good. Oh man. We have a lot to talk about. Hope everybody is doing good as always. If you guys are listening and you feel like throwing up where you're from in the old chat, that's awesome. I'm going to retweet my live stream and we will get right into it. Everybody is doing good today. Let's see. Oh yeah, always Azam from Pakistan. Hope you are doing good, Azam. Let's see. Oregon, North Korea, obviously. Duh. Under your bed. My bed doesn't have an under, so deal with it. It's just one twin mattress that lies this far off the ground. No, I'm just kidding. I just have a bed frame that like goes to the ground. Bosnia. Vegas, baby. Oh, hell. Nice. Australia, nice. Rochester, New York. I have family that used to live in Rochester. Well, in-laws that used to live in Rochester. They now live in Buffalo. So I spent some time in Rochester. It's a nice place. Well, at least the parts I've spent time in. I don't know. Denmark, Seattle, Washington. Nice. New York, Benghazi, Austria. Cool, guys. Well, I appreciate you all being in here. We have a lot to talk about today. I'm going to go over the Signal chat leak that I'm also going to be going over the what else happened? I don't know. We'll get into it. We got a lot to talk about today. Downtown ain't so hot. Yeah, in Rochester. Yeah, I'm sure. I've literally only been out there for like 2 days and went to just probably the nicest areas. So, yeah, that's awesome. All right, guys, let's get into it. Head over to the updates. We got a lot of updates to talk about. Make myself small so you guys can see. All right, and we will start in the Kursk region. All right, if my map will update, yes, it will. There we go. All right, so in the Kursk/Sumy region, this is an area that is now sort of winding down, I would say. We might see some activation by Russian forces into the Sumy region from the Kursk Oblast. However, in my estimation, I think you're going to see some slight Russian advances into the Sumy region. Nothing dramatic, nothing full-blown. I could be wrong, but it appears that a good number of units have moved out of this area, so I would not expect any large Russian advance. Mostly what we saw akin to what we saw in the Vovchansk region of Kharkov, similar to that over here, just a small entry that forces a Ukrainian force to stay to defend the region, a larger Ukrainian force than normal. Zooming in here and looking at the recent Russian advances, in this region, Russian forces have basically completely cleared this northern pocket. The village of Oleshina is still under Ukrainian control / gray zone. It's not clear right now. However, today we did get footage of the 80th Brigade in this region, the Ukrainian brigade, and it was struck by multiple Iskanders. An accumulation of the brigade was struck by Iskanders right here along the border region. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure this village has been evacuated, and by tomorrow, all of this area right here will be under Russian control, as well as up here to the north, or I guess slightly west. Russian forces have advanced similarly through the Sumy region, leveling out the front here. Not a tremendous amount of advance, but just kind of closing out the Kursk operation. All right. Hopefully everybody's doing good. Remember, guys, if you have questions to get in, you can always ask those through super chats. I will always answer those right away as soon as I see them. So if you have time-sensitive questions, get those in. I usually do a Q&A at the end, so feel free to put your questions up. I might see them, I might not. And then if you guys are new here, please don't forget to like and subscribe. That is the easiest way that you can support me. Leave a comment. I like to go through those comments sometimes and see what you guys have to say, what your opinions are on what I'm doing here on my live streams. Your communication is honestly half of this show, so I really appreciate everybody who's in here right now. Thank you to all of the normal or reoccurring listeners. You guys are definitely the bones of this entire show, so thank you so much. All right, let's get back into it. My map's slow to load again, as always. All right, moving over to the Kharkov / LPR, Luhansk People's Republic oblasts. We will zoom in down here along the Zhibyets River. There has actually been a significant amount of Russian progress west of Terny here in the direction of Katarinivka and Nove. This is significant because this area is one of the areas that I personally would not have expected to see a lot of Russian movement right now. I think that the Zaporozhye region, the northern Kharkov region, and the southern Donetsk regions are really the areas that are the most ripe for Russian advance. I think that these are the areas where we are seeing the weakest Ukrainian presence. So advances in this area are sort of surprising to me. I would say that this area is just rather easy for the Ukrainians to hold on to and difficult for the Russians to progress through. So the fact that we're seeing Russian advance through this area should really tell you, particularly maybe it's just this area and this is anecdotal, but the Russians are advancing here. And I personally, through my analysis of the conflict, would not have expected the Russians to advance in this area as quickly as they are. Like I said, the areas I think are ripe for advance are this northern Kharkov area, over the Oskil River and down from Vovchansk. Not so much here, but this entire border region. I think the Russians could cross here and create some significant issues for the Ukrainians. Then down in the southern Donetsk region where we are seeing Russian advances, and then over here in the Zaporozhye region. But this area, like I said, has seen a breakthrough by the Russians. The advance is roughly 6 kilometers. So that is pretty significant, especially because we are talking about the Liman direction. Liman is a huge target objective. It was for the Ukrainians and it is for the Russians. As soon as Liman is captured, the Shubyansky forestry as well as the Seversk direction become much more constrained, and the Russians should be able to put a ton of pressure on this region. So these advances right here are more significant than I think any other advances we're seeing pretty much across the board. The advances in the southern Donetsk region are probably the most significant. However, there's not as large of strategic targets or strategic objectives in that region for the Russians. Whereas if they get control of Liman, they will be able to push onto Izum as well as Slavyansk and Seversk. So this advance right here is just very crucial and will definitely require a Ukrainian response. It's also significant because this area is lined with fortifications and the Russians are basically just hopping up the fortifications. I'm considering putting them in here soon, although it's been kind of difficult to figure out where exactly the forts are in this area. But the Russians have made it to the very edge of Katarinivka here. Again, not a significant village, more of the forested area, which is more important, and the fortifications in this area that run along this tree line. So the Russian goal is more to advance to this area rather than the actual villages of Nove and Katarinivka. All right, I'm going to move this over here. Kharkov. All right. Why is it lagging so much? Because the map has to update the satellite images. And so when I zoom out and zoom in, it changes the map. The sizes change, and Google Maps is sometimes not the best. All right. Just to the south here, south of Yampolivka, Russian forces have advanced. This is just putting more pressure on this sort of pocket right here. I don't think that there's a very large Ukrainian presence, but this will very shortly begin the Battle of Kursk, as well as Russian forces have captured a small fortification here and the village, which is not really a village. It's just a name on the map of Mirne. All right. Sorry, I have something in the back of my throat. It's bugging me. I thought there was an update. Nope. All right. So we had the previous update in this region, the Donetsk region. Russian forces had captured Alexandropol and had advanced to the outside of Pantelenomivka. That village has been completely captured by the Russians now. There is a fortification in this area, which is the more significant aspect of this advance. And again, this is an area where I would not expect much Russian advance at all. So the fact that the Russians are expanding in this region is a I would say a red flag. Like, pay attention to that. All right, moving over to the Pokrovsk direction here, the Pokrovsk front. Ukrainian forces have been geolocated right in this tree line here outside of Kotlin. So a small front line adjustment, although, I mean, this entire area, I would say basically the entire like kilometer from the front line should just sort of be considered a gray zone area where the Ukrainians can push in at any time. I mean, it's not like a defined front line. All right. Now, this is something that I think that we should pay attention to. I think that you guys should pay attention to. We are now seeing a reactivation of Russian forces here in the east. So the title of today's episode is Russian Offensive Resumes. And this is because we sort of have seen a slowdown while the Kursk pocket collapsed, right? We saw a lot of attention paid to the Kursk pocket. We didn't see as much Russian advances in the east. There was claims that, you know, the Ukrainians were on the offensive in the Pokrovsk and Donetsk areas. And this just turned out to not be true. There were some assaults, some light counterattacks, but there was nothing significant achieved. Most of those gains have now been reversed, particularly in the Pokrovsk section here in Shevchenko, where the Ukrainians had focused a good amount of their assaults that had put half of the village into the gray zone. That has now been reversed. So, you know, we're seeing a ton. We were seeing a ton of attacks. A lot of those attacks have now been like reversed, as I had said. And now we're seeing the Russians regain the initiative here as Kursk is wrapping. And we've seen multiple advances here in the southern Donetsk region, all in the direction of the Dnepropetrovsk Oblast. So we could be getting very close to seeing Dnepropetrovsk entered by the Russians. It would be a very big deal. It would be significant in terms of even a bargaining chip in negotiations to say, hey, we'll back out of Dnepropetrovsk and allow you to maintain control over this oblast if you get out of, you know, Zaporozhye or Kramatorsk or any of these other cities. So this just something to also think about. Not saying the negotiations are happening, but it's a potentiality. If the Russians stop at this line, which is also something I could definitely see them doing, you know, just for political sake, I believe that we could see them stop. That would also tell us what the Russian objectives are for this portion of the conflict. All right. Sorry about that. All right. So in the direction of Novo Alexandrivka and Yusepenivka. I don't know if Yusepenivka has been entirely captured. This area is very, very fought over. This is a lot of gray zone here, so this I would consider this to be potentially temporary. However, with the advance here into Novo Alexandrivka, I believe that Yusepenivka has been captured in its entirety, and this brings Russian forces within 2.8 miles, which would be somewhere right around 4 kilometers away from the Dnipropetrovsk Oblast. So definitely within FPV range now, this entire area. I mean, it has been, but even more so with these different advances. And the Russians gaining a foothold in the edge of this village is also significant, as it will allow the Russians to push up along the Solona River here to the north and through the fields to the south, as we'll go down here and see that the Russians have made another advance. So this entire front line will end up leveling soon out along Novo Alexandrivka, Kotelyarivka, and down here in Bondanivka, and then even further south, as we'll get into that. So here, just west of Nadivka, Russian forces have advanced in the direction of Kotelarivka and have come very, very close to the village. Again, looking at the distance here from the border region, we're looking at 2.9 miles again, which is roughly 4 kilometers, very similar to the distance up here. And that it just shows that the Russians are just kind of moving across the front. And it might look like little spearheads here on the map, but remember, my map doesn't show gray zone. So the area between this village and, Novo Alexandrivka and Nadivka is probably gray zone, much like Priobazakanak. I don't know. This village right here is also probably in the gray zone, just considering where the Russian positions are on the side. We just have not got a geolocation to fill that in. So then moving down here, you can see that just south of Zaporizhia and west of Sibirne, Russian forces have advanced in the direction of Bondanivka. Again, if we look at the distance from the Dnipropetrovsk Oblast, we are looking at 3.8 miles, so 5 kilometers. A little over 5 kilometers to the border here. Although in this area, there is nothing stopping the Russians. It's just open fields until they hit this road, I guess. All right. Now, moving down to the south, we have seen a pretty serious frontline shift here to the south over the last 48 hours. Looking down at Roslin, Rosliv. Russian forces have entered into the village itself. This is just south of Constantinople. And again, as we talked about, entering this village is going to put a lot of pressure on this area right here, which will force the Ukrainians back to Bahatir. And that means that the Russians will be able to push out of Andrivka and Constantinople, which they've had difficulty doing in the direction of Olesivka and Batir. So, this advance is rather significant. The fact that they have made it into this village means that they're going to be able to push towards like this gas station area, cut off this road, and then advance out along the Vovocha River here, or to the south of the Vovocha River, and sort of level out the front. Right up at Batir, and then moving into the village itself and this fortification that lies sort of at this crossroads. All right, now to the south, north of Rozdolone, Russian forces have made a wide advance. This is just sort of a frontline adjustment with new information. That advance is 10 square miles, which is 27 square kilometers. That is a significant advance in this area. Again, the Velika Novoselka sort of pocket is now just really expanding out, and you're going to see a lot more movement out of Velika Novoselka here over the next couple of weeks. Remember, the Russians are just putting pressure everywhere. Don't expect a big aero offensive. Zelensky is talking about the Russians going on the offensive in Kharkov and Sumy and Zaporozhye. These are a possibility. We may see a larger, I think we will see a larger offensive, but we're not going to see a big aero offensive until the Ukrainians literally collapse. Right now, I think you're just going to see an immense amount of pressure across the board. And we're going to look at some of the statements that Vladimir Putin put out today, talking about the negotiations and stuff like that. So we're going to get into that. I'm not done with updates, though. I still have a couple more. What if send troops to Transnistria to open? What if Ukraine sends troops to Transnistria to open a new front? They can do that, but that's a huge risk. It also very much will drag Moldova into the war, which will drag Europe into the war, which would probably drag the United States into the war. So realistically, probably not. It's just so high risk when you're already, look at what the West is already doing. I mean, you could see it from a Ukrainian perspective, like the Ukrainians just do it. But I think that is going to look very bad to Europe. I think that's going to look horrible to the United States. I think that is the wrong move. I think Zelensky is in a very precarious position right now where he's trying to maintain U.S. support, trying to keep the U.S. involved in the war, trying to keep Europe involved in the war. But they all want different things, kind of. I think that there's more of a cohesive plan behind the scenes. I think they are scrambling a little bit, Europe and NATO, to figure out what they're going to do. I think they're behind schedule and, behind the position they need to be. But I don't think that. First off, I don't think the Ukrainian armed forces are in a position to do that. I don't think that like I said, I don't think NATO's on board with it. I don't think the U.S. is definitely not on board with it. I think it would put Zelensky in just a horrible position. So they can go for it. I think that would be the end of Zelensky, though. All right. Okay, moving out just north of Velika Novosilka, Russian forces have advanced on the eastern side of the Mokoryali River here and have advanced to the northern end of Vesele. Vesele is probably under Russian control by this time. We're just waiting for an update here, and that brings the Russians very close to Perebuduva here. Komar, I guess, is easier, on this highway right here. And this is very important because with the Russian advance here north of Bondanivka, we could see another encirclement beginning to form where the Russians push out towards Dashane here, cutting the road, which supplies Oleksivka, and then pushing up and cutting the road here by Komar, which would cut off Batyr and this fortification. Obviously, if one is left open, the other can supply the other. However, Russian FPV drones are probably hunting this entire road right here. And if the Russians push out this area of the front any further, then this entire area will become a pocket. And then, did I make a thing here? No. Yeah, no. Okay. So, as you can see, the Russians are still very closely following what I had said. They're pushing out along this line. The front line is almost exactly where I said it was going to be now by this point. So that's pretty cool. But what I was going to say is this front is now looking entirely different. It's no longer like the Donetsk front as much. Donetsk, it's still in southern Donetsk, so you can still call it that. But it's so far away from that. And particularly, I mean, you could call this the Donetsk front up here, like Pokrovsk is more like on the Donetsk front. But the fact that the Russians are west of Pokrovsk and now the front is really leveling out here by Velika Novosilka, it will eventually level out here. You're looking at an entirely new front heading towards Propaznaya, Pokrovsky, and then over towards like Zaporozhye and north, obviously Holyapolye and Kharkiv. This front is going to be flat on Velika Novoselka facing this way. So you're going to be looking at like a more of like a step, like a staircase here, like one step here in Zaporozhye, one step to Velika, one step up to Pokrovsk. Soon it's going to be another step up to Slavyansk and Kramatorsk. And then, I mean, I think the Russians are just going to slowly push out in that way. So think about it like a step here, a step here, a step here, and then one last step there. I think that's sort of how my brain is putting this image in my head. It's helping me understand how the Russians are going to push out. And then the final update today in the Zaporozhye region, Russian forces have pushed out and captured most of Lubakove, which again is, I mean, the Russians have advanced more in Zaporozhye here in a couple weeks than the Ukrainians did in their entire 2023 counteroffensive here in the Robotny direction. So significant Russian advances comparatively, but this area is more, I think, Ukraine is becoming weak across the front line, and then the Russians are just taking advantage of it. And this is one of the key examples of that. All right. Hopefully everybody's doing good. All right. Okay. Let's see here. I have some articles I want to talk about. So we are in the midst of ceasefire talks. Like I said, I'm going to talk about Putin's response, sort of, but I just wanted to talk about, this sort of the conversations going on in Europe about sending peacekeepers and a contingent and, a coalition of the willing, whatever you want to call it. So this is from AP. Whatever you think about the source, French president says not all European allies agree on a proposed force for Ukraine. They're very huggy and comfortable. France and Britain will continue to forge ahead with plans to deploy troops in Ukraine to defend an eventual peace deal with Russia, but only some other than, peace deal with Russia, but only some other nations want to take part, French President Emmanuel Macron said Thursday after the summit of countries that have been mulling the proposal. The French leader said several nations other than France and Britain want to be part of the armed forces, but added it's not unanimous. Paris and London say such a force would aim to secure any peace deal by dissuading Russian forces from attacking Ukraine. All right, so here's what we need to do. We need to pick apart this language, right? This is a perfect example of reading through articles and understanding which parts are propaganda and reading the words behind the actual written words. So the French leader has said several nations other than France and Britain want to be part of the armed force, which would probably be Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Poland, and I doubt Germany really wants to, but maybe Germany. So those are the countries you're talking about. But the problem with those countries is they really can't do much especially without security guarantees from the U.S. And them being provocative to Russia at this time without full U.S. backing would put places like the Baltics in extreme jeopardy, just even economically. So that's the first thing I think we need to take away from this is they would use their names if they were more important. France and Britain are the primary forces pushing this idea, and it's because they're about to be left holding the Ukraine bag and they don't really know how to go about it. So let's get into this next part. It's not unanimous. Paris and London say such a force would aim to secure a peace deal by dissuading Russia from attacking Ukraine again. What does that sound like to everybody? That is a tripwire force. So what you're talking about is European troops entering into Ukraine in a peacekeeping fashion, which would be exactly like Ukraine joining NATO. It would be no different than that. These would be a tripwire force that would basically force Russia to attack NATO peacekeepers inside of Ukraine during a ceasefire that they agreed upon. It would put Russia in a horrible position. And yeah, this is exactly why they're doing it, is they're trying to delay. They're trying to create a impasse, basically, where if you attack Ukraine, you're going to get nuked because you're going to war with Europe. And once you go to war with Europe, there's no way you're not going to war with NATO. So that's the whole idea here. And they're saying it right to your face. We don't need unanimity to achieve it, Macron said. French and British military officials will work with Ukraine to determine where the contingents should be deployed and how many troops they'd need to be a credible deterrent. The French leader added. There will be reassurances. There will be a reassurance force with several European nations that will deploy, he insisted. So, as I said, Europe is looking for any chance, any pause to put a contingent into Ukraine. Putin cannot allow this to happen. This is the only route out for NATO and Europe right now with the Ukraine project. And I really do believe you're about to see Putin put serious pressure on the West here with the Ukraine situation. He's already begun to do this. And I really do think he is dragging out negotiations just for that exact reason, just to put more pain on the West throughout this entire thing. So I'm looking for the quotes from Putin. Hold on, everybody. Okay. Got him. Okay. So I'm going to just read these out real quick. Let's see. More like war keepers, am I right? Yeah. Yep. Definitely not a lot of peace happening there. I heard Zelensky smacks his hands on the table and 99999 when nothing goes to plan. Do you mind giving us a demonstration of that? I already did before I finished reading, but yeah, that's no, I can't get clipped doing that. I'm too bald. That would look really bad. All right. Okay, so I'm going to read this article here. All right, so these are just statements by Vladimir Putin. He gave a little bit of a press conference talking about what is going on with negotiations, just sort of like a sit rep on the ceasefire talks and everything, and how communications are going with the West. So I'm just going to read some of these off in order. Trump sincerely wants the Ukrainian conflict to end. I think that is just ass kissing. I think that why not say that, right? Hello, Mr. Boston. How are you doing? Why not say that, right? What do you have to lose? You know, glazing Trump a little bit is exactly how you win favor over with him. So why not? Russia is in favor of resolving the conflict by peaceful means, but on conditions that the root causes are eliminated. So that's exactly what he said before. The root causes are Western military aid being sent to Ukraine and Ukrainian involvement with NATO. So that's, again, he's reiterating the root cause statement. Russia wants to ensure security over a long, hold on just a second. I can just do this. I can bring this up so you guys can see. All right. Yeah, so Russia wants to ensure its security over a long historical perspective. Russia is ready to work with Ukrainian settlement on a Ukrainian settlement with Europe, but they are trying to lead us by the nose. So there's Trump saying exactly Putin saying exactly what I've been saying the entire time, that, my big concern was that somehow Putin, after all of these instances of being led by the nose, Minsk 1, Minsk 2, Syria in Idlib, and then Syria again, basically, I mean, it was the same instance, but like 5 years apart. It's just going to happen again, right? The West is not going to change. So it's nice to hear him saying that. The Russian Federation does not intend to make mistakes based on trust in the so-called Western partners. This is a very big deal. This is very good to hear, in my personal opinion. It means that this is actually going to be settled in a way that benefits Russia at the end of this. Is that Russia does not appear to be overextended in any way. So now I am very bullish, or very bullish on how the negotiations are going to move forward. All right. Other statements. It is unclear to Russia with whom to sign something in Ukraine, since other leaders will come tomorrow, basically saying Zelensky's not going to be here tomorrow. So signing anything with Zelensky and the current regime is pointless. Hint, you need to regime change Zelensky to get this done. The Russian Federation proposed to resolve all issues regarding Ukraine peacefully, even in 2022. We're the good guys, is basically what that means. Russia welcomes the resolution of the conflict in Ukraine by peaceful means, just not at our expense. Makes perfect sense. Russia has a strategic initiative strategic initiative across the entire front line. Again, true. There is a reason to believe that the Russian armed forces will finish off Ukrainian troops. So this is a big deal. Basically, what he said was something along the lines of, we're putting a lot of pressure on them, and from the pressure that we're putting on them to negotiate, it looks like they're about to collapse, is what he's saying. So this tells me that the Russians could apply more pressure if they wanted to. They're not at the current time. That is the big one right there. Russian troops have liberated over 70% of the territories, blah, blah, blah. Russian troops liberated 99% of the LPR. And that's it. Okay. So that is that. And then we can go. There we go. So those were his statements today, and that puts a lot of confidence in the direction for me. Like I can now see how this is going to go forward. A week ago, if you would have asked me, I would have said I'm waiting to see what Putin says. How this goes forward. You have Europe saying they're not going to relieve sanctions, which is a minimum starting point for Russia to agree to the Black Sea ceasefire and the energy infrastructure ceasefire. So that is not in place right now. I think you will continue to see energy infrastructure strikes and stuff until that is agreed upon. Basically, what Russia and Putin have done have put themselves in a position where they're offering peace, but it's going to come at an extreme cost to both Ukraine and the West. It is going to show that Russia very clearly won. And that is exactly my analysis of the position that Russia is in and the position that the West is in. So it looks like that kind of came to be true. Let's see. We are gradually, not as quickly as some would like, but nevertheless persistently and confidently moving towards achieving all the goals declared at the beginning of this operation. Do you think he was talking to me? I don't know. But he is saying the things that I am saying. And so that, like, just hearing him reaffirm all of the things that I've said throughout this entire thing, and it just gives me confidence that he is going to be making the decisions that I think he's going to be making. So I think my analysis is going to become much easier from here on out. Glad to see Putin watches Kalibrated live. I doubt it. It's just common sense and reality. And that's the thing is I'm not, when I'm talking on here, I will never impress or I'm not going to have a diehard. I mean, I will have a diehard fan base. I appreciate all my fans in here, but I don't appease people. Like I will never contour my content for an audience. I don't give a shit. I don't care. If I have nobody in here, I'm still going to come on and talk. So I appreciate you being in here. I don't think Putin watches my live stream. He just has common sense. And also, by the way, I was just talking to Brian about this. Everybody thinks Brian is super good at this, and we were talking about this. We just tell you what they say. They tell you everything. Pete Hegseth told you everything that was going to happen. Project 2025, Trump is following it almost exactly. If you want to know the future, go look at that list. I'm sure everything on that list is about to come come to happen. So, yeah. All right, I caught up. All right, everybody. I have one last article that I want to talk about. Let's see. Yo, Scott, a little lost over here. What is your new platform you used for the Russian sources? The platform you were reading off of is is this just useful source? Is it Telegram? Yes, that's Telegram. Oh yeah, the page I had up. Yeah, that's Telegram. You can go to the link in the description of the YouTube channel, and you can find my Telegram. You can follow me there, and you can. Sometimes I forward stuff, so you'll be able to follow other sources that I post on my page. Yeah. Telegram. That's the best, in my personal opinion, one of the best places for open source information with regards to any military conflict anywhere around the world. Did 4 American soldiers actually sink in the swamps of Lithuania? I don't know. There are American soldiers missing in Lithuania on the Lithuanian-Belarusian border. 4 of them. They believe that they went into the water, although they have not found a vehicle. So who knows what happened there? I'm not sure. I truly don't know. I don't think anybody really knows. All right. Which oblast will the Russians gain the most kilometers in the next 3 months, and why? I would say definitely Donetsk. They're just going to keep pushing in southern Donetsk. That's going to be, you're going to see the most progress in that area. All right. Let's go to this last article here. So already we have Zelensky making claims that Russia has violated the partial ceasefire, which is not even in place. The Russians have offered it. The Ukrainians also broke the ceasefire by blowing up the Shuzha gas pipeline when they were leaving Kursk, as well as another gas pipeline in the just east of Crimea in Russia. So first off, this picture is fantastic. I love. Oh, there's another one. Yeah. All right. Zelensky claims Russia violated the partial ceasefire after energy facility hit. London. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky accused Russia of violating the partial ceasefire on Thursday after he said an energy infrastructure facility was damaged in the southern Ukrainian city of Kherson. I've also seen substations hit in Pokrovsk and in the Kharkov regions, which I am going to talk about because this is kind of important. During the lengthy press conference in Paris, Zelensky said Russian artillery damaged an energy facility in Kherson and called on the U.S. to react to this alleged breach of the agreement to halt attacks on energy infrastructure. This is not a battlefield, Zelensky told reporters. Civilians lost energy. I believe that there should be a reaction from the United States. Yeah, nuke Russia, go for it, whatever. I don't know what he wants the reaction to be. But this is important because this brings me to a topic I wanted to touch on. Recently, we have been seeing, and if you follow me on Telegram or Twitter, you will see that we have been seeing an immense amount of footage coming out of Russian strikes. More footage than I think I have ever seen throughout the entirety of this war. It could be that Ukrainian resources for censorship have reduced. I don't know. I don't think that's possible. It's one of their more important things that they focus on. So it's in a weird position right now where I'm trying to determine if Ukrainian censorship has just degraded and we're just seeing more videos, or if they're intentionally showing the videos. And I believe right now that they are intentionally showing us more footage, allowing more footage to be released. Because it is damaging any potential negotiations. The Ukrainians can use it as propaganda. So it's been sort of nice seeing these new strikes, especially because the Russians are now using Garand 2 drones all together on one city. So they fly like 20 drones into one city and just bombard the holy hell out of one little area. And we've been seeing a lot of that. But I believe that the Ukrainians are allowing that footage to come out because just out of nowhere, we started just instantly seeing more and more footage, like clear, unedited, no blurry skyline, no, just video. And that usually, that hasn't happened throughout the entirety of the war. It wasn't happening last month. So something changed. And that is the last article I have today, guys. There was one other thing I wanted to talk about on my Twitter. Hold on the wrong. All right, here we go. Okay, so talking about the recent, let me find it. Sorry. Oh yeah, the signal leak. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the signal leak now. We saw that the U.S. had opened up a group chat on Signal. The U.S. uses Signal for non-classified communications. It was sensitive communications, but not classified. The Trump administration started a group chat with a bunch of different individuals who are representing different members of the Trump cabinet. And they were using the app Signal. And in this Signal chat, they included the editor, I think for an editor for The Atlantic. I think it was the chief editor for The Atlantic, which is a huge error, a huge fumble if it was accidental. I have reason to believe that it's not accidental, and I will go through those reasons. But we can take a look at some of the communications here. So let's see. Yeah, let's go. Okay, so there's a bunch here, but they created a group chat basically, and they were talking about the upcoming strike in Yemen. And basically, this editor was just silently sitting in the back of this group chat, pretending like he didn't get added. And then after the strike had happened, he ended up leaking that he was in this group chat, and he ended up posting 10 screenshots from the group chat. And I'm just going to go through the most important ones and what they signify. So first and foremost, when you're reading these, I just read very carefully, guys, because there's so much in every single thing you read. You can determine if it's real or fake, if it's and what it's designed to do, what the message is designed to send. So this could be just a big thumb boomer error. He accidentally got added to this chat, big mistake, whatever. But there are specific aspects of this chat that I wanted to talk about. And first and foremost is JD Vance here. So I'm just going to read this. Team, I'm out of town for the day doing an economic event in Michigan, but I think we're making a mistake. He's talking about striking Yemen. 3% of U.S. trade runs through Suez. 40% of European trade does. There is a real risk that the public doesn't understand this or why it's necessary. The strongest reason to do this is, as POTUS said, to send a message, but I'm not sure that the president is aware of how inconsistent this is with his message on Europe right now. There is further risk that we see a moderate to severe spike in oil prices. So, continuing to strike Yemen, there's a potentiality that oil prices will increase. And the point that JD is making here is that they don't want to bail out Europe. And I want to remind everybody what Pete Hegseth said in Brussels during his speech on February 5th, where he talked about the division of labor. And I know I keep touching on this, but specifically that Europe needs to step up and do what they need to do. And part of this whole thing is this illusion of a split, showing some sort of split between the U.S. and Europe. There is no split between U.S. and Europe. The U.S. might not be doing exactly everything that Europe wants them to do. So you might see some surface level tension. Maybe there are some personalities that aren't working together. But remember that Europe is part of the U.S. hegemony empire, right? They are sort of our vassals. We have blown up their energy infrastructure and they didn't do shit about it. We're talking about them taking over the Ukraine project, so on and so forth. I can go on for days. And this tweet right here is a perfect example of what I'm talking about throughout the entirety of these Signal chat leaks. So I am willing to, so I'm just going to read the end of this. I'm willing to support the consensus of the team and keep these concerns to myself, but there is a strong argument for delaying this month, doing the messaging work on why this matters, seeing where the economy is, etc. Okay, so they're talking about going ahead with the strike. JD Vance brings up some obviously good issues, but I want you to look at how well all of this is worded. how clean it all is, how proper it is, no mistakes. Everything is exactly the way you want it to be. And what JD is doing here is showing that, in my personal opinion, and I could be totally just making all of this up, but it looks like the entire group chat shows that the Trump administration is on the same page. They're working in the same direction. It shows that the operation was very smooth and very successful. It shows that J.D. Vance, the vice president, is arguing with the direction of the Secretary of Defense and the President of the United States, and saying that he disagrees with this. He understands why they think that they should do it. It's very nice, very pleasant. But it's like a controlled opposition, in my opinion, is what you're seeing here. You're seeing an attempt to show that there is necessary checks and balances within the administration, and all of this is just very convenient. And as I move to this next one, so this is Mike Waltz. As we stated in the first PC. We have a fundamental decision of allowing sea lanes to remain closed or to reopen them now or later. We are the only ones with the capability, unfortunately. So reiterating that Europe is not strong enough, which is actually probably true. I don't even know if the U.S. is going to be able to reopen these shipping lanes. But, reiterating that the U.S. is the only ones who are capable of doing it. So we have to do it. If not us, who? Right, is sort of the message here. And then JD Vance says, Pete Hegseth, if you think we should do it, let's go. I just hate bailing out Europe again. Reiterating the whole Europe needs to cover themselves. And then also showing JD Vance is willing to work basically with the team, even though he might disagree with the situation. Let's just make sure our messaging is tight here. And if there are things we can do up front to minimize risk to Saudi oil facilities, we should do it. And that just makes sense for this entire thing. And then let's go to this last tweet. And then this is the final one I wanted to talk about. I think that there was another one I wanted to show, but it's okay. I might look on my phone and see if I have it. But here we go. So this is after the strike had happened. Good job, Pete, and your team. Mike Waltz, the team in MLA did a great job as well. Great work, all powerful start. SEMCON is on point. Great job, strike. And so this whole tweet, or this whole group chat right here, is basically just, look, guys, look how well we worked together. It went great. It went perfect. Steve Witkoff even threw in some emojis here. It's like the most. This is what I would think when I step back and read this. This looks like what millennials who are doing this, who I assume actually did this chat, think boomers talk like in a professional setting. That's what this feels like to me. It feels like this is what everybody would expect a conversation behind closed doors to look like. And this is an extreme red flag to me. I don't see one racist comment. I don't see one, demeaning comment. There's absolutely nothing negative throughout these entire chats towards the Trump administration at all. It shows, like I said, checks and balances, cohesion, success even. I mean, and this is some form of transparency, right? And if you think about Trump's base, they were very upset with the 4 years of Biden just being straight up lied to. This shows that while the Trump team might not be doing what they had mentioned during the campaign, peace through strength, not going into needless wars and continuing the wars of former administrations, that when they have to do it, it's extremely successful and very clean, and the operation is well done. So in the future, when we go to war with Iran or anything, expect this chat to be happening while that's going on. That's my take on this. That's how this feels to me. I could be completely wrong, but that's where I see this, and that's what my gut is telling me. The second I fucking read this leak, I was like, yo, no classified information, absolutely none. The talk about the strike, that you can go look at it. You can just search on Twitter or Google Signal leak. the conversation was sensitive, I guess, but it wasn't leaked until after the strike, so it did not matter. The person was added and was not noticed at all. You're telling me you don't have one person doing moderation in your very, very high profile chats. And at the end of the day, and this is the best part about the whole thing, and I was actually going to show this video because I have it right here. See if I can get some audio.
Question. This is the signals chat controversy that's going on. Is DOJ involved at this point? If so, why? If not, why not?
Well, first, it was sensitive information, not classified, and inadvertently released.
Inadvertently.
And what we should be talking about is it was a very successful mission.
Successful mission?
Our world is now safer.
The world is safer because of what we did.
Mission. We're not going to comment any further on that.
No comment.
If you want to talk about classified information, talk about what was at Hillary Clinton's home that she was trying to bleach bit. Talk about the classified documents in Joe Biden's garage.
Another
that Hunter
deflection.
Biden had access to. This was not classified information. And we are very pleased with the results of that operation and that the entire world is safer because of it. Thank you all very much.
Is he being
Okay, so biggest red flags here. Again, nobody's getting in trouble. Nobody's going to get in trouble from any of this. That's a huge red flag. This is a fuck up, right? It makes the administration look bad. They're embarrassed, which I've told you guys time and time again when we talk about Putin being embarrassed or whatever. That's not real. 90% of embarrassment is just ego of the person who gets embarrassed, and it doesn't actually affect geopolitics or your political position at all. So you can say that this is embarrassing for the Trump administration, but every other administration has had OPSEC failures and classified document issues. You know, Hillary with her personal phone, Biden with his documents on his Corvette. It's so easy to get away with it because you can just say, oops, it was a leak. Oops. But look at what Biden and Hillary did. Look, everybody else does it. So why is it a big deal? And then it's just memory hold and brushed off by next week. But the message got out, right? We're very happy with this operation. It was very successful. And even though it contradicts everything we had promised you in our campaign, look at how nice and transparent we're being about it because of this leak. Or look how nice it is behind the scenes because of this leak, right? That's what I want. That's all I'm trying to get across, guys. All right. I'm done. If you guys have some questions, go ahead and get some questions in, but I am finished with everything that I wanted to talk about today. In your opinion, does global hegemony shift change once Ukraine is defeated by Russia? No. No, hegemony, the U.S., you'll know when the U.S. has lost hegemony. They will have their Suez moment. It will come. It could be in 50 years. It could be in 100 years. I don't know. Empires take time to die. The U.S. is still in a hegemonic position. And even after the loss of Ukraine, they are still going to be fighting for that hegemony. It is not lost yet, is nowhere near lost. You're still going to have to see probably a conflict between the U.S. and China before the U.S. loses hegemony. If it does, and then we'll enter into a more multipolar world. I think we're heading in that direction, definitely. I don't think we're there yet. Oh, do you think Ukraine will undergo regime change, or will Zelensky fully side with Europe and snub America? I think both are very, very possible options. I think he goes with Europe and snubs America. I think that's part of America's plan, though. I think it's very clear that negotiations aren't going to work. So, did you hear about Zelensky's new victory plan being about waiting for Putin to die? Yes, I did. Zelensky came out and did an interview and basically said that you should bet on him because he's going to live longer than Putin, which sounds like a challenge, honestly. If you had a 2-week all expense paid vacation, would you rather spend it in Crinky or Stinky? Right now, Stinky, for sure. That's just behind Chest of Yar for those of you who don't know. Would I do Bondi? I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. Bondi? Can you at least agree that Trump's first term was pretty good relative to former Former president, foreign policy wise. Yeah, because I think that why you're saying that, I agree. I think why you're saying that though is because he was just bogged down the entire time and almost nothing got done. And the nothing getting done was better than what the Democrats had done previously and what they did after. What are your thoughts on McKendrick's Heartland theory? I would have to read exactly what that is. I'm sorry, my brain is cooked. I'm pretty sure I know what you're talking about. I just don't want to start talking about the wrong thing entirely. Just send me a DM and we can talk about it on Twitter or Telegram. I came in late. Could you please summarize map developments? Oh, yes. I'll go over real quick for everybody who was not here because that's easy to do. Real quick, small Russian advancement in Zaporozhye. Again, this area is, I think, ripe for Russian advancement. Southern Donetsk saw the most Russian advancements. Here we had a wide Russian advance north of Rozdilin towards Batyr. Over here, Russians advanced to the north of Vasel. Over here, Russians advanced into Roslin. Again, this entire area down here is getting very tight for the Ukrainians. Russians advanced into the direction of Bondanivka and in the direction of the Dnepropetrovsk Oblast. If they reach Dashane here and cut this road, if they reach Komar here and cut this road, this entire area will be in an encirclement. Moving to the north, Russian forces have entered Novo-Alexandrivka as well as advanced towards Kotelorivka. And then over here, Russian forces, I'm not going to try to pronounce this, I've messed it up multiple times, have captured the rest of that village. And then the last major update here, Russian forces have advanced west of the Zhibiets River, advancing to the villages of Katarinivka and Nove. I hope that was good enough for you, my friend. Thank you for your question. Collab with Jolan talks politics about the war in Ukraine. His views are pro-Ukrainian. He would be interesting to see debate. Yeah, sure. I'm always up to debate anybody. Reach out or send me his contact information or something. I'm always down to debate. Question. The U.S. still has the best defendable border and geopolitical position in the world, produces tons of food and oil, and have decent birth rates. They're not going anywhere soon. Yep, that's what I said. Could take 50 years, could take 100 years. Hegemonies and empires don't just disappear usually as well. So if you look at the Romans, they turned into the church. If you look at the Brits, they turned into the World's Bank. And the U.S. is going to turn into something eventually as well. They just kind of transform. That money and that power, it's really hard to get rid of it and destroy it totally, especially nowadays. What's with the donkey carrying supplies in the wood and crossing fields? Do you think there's a chance horses make a comeback? I think that there are certain areas where when you're dealing with extreme mud and stuff like that, animals do just as good of a job as an ATV or something like that. I would prefer to have a mule if I was in a mountainous region. I'd much prefer to have a mule over even a backpack, my God, or, you know, a motorcycle or something like that. Yeah, I'd much prefer to have a donkey or something. They can just carry shit for you. They've been used forever. I don't think you're going to see horses make a comeback. And it has nothing to do with lack of vehicles or anything like that. It's a very wide front line, guys. It's thousands of kilometers. You are going to see certain things happen in individual instances because situationally and circumstantially they work. right? Everybody made fun of the Russians using ATVs and golf carts or whatever. And what the thing about those vehicles and what I've read from Russian soldiers and what I've been told from Russian soldiers is that those light vehicles are cheaper. They're less, they're quicker. So you don't spend as much time on the roads where you're getting killed. They are single. So one person gets targeted instead of 4 people in a Lada or in a, God forbid you're in like an M113 or something like that. You just get cooked alive in those things. So, and the armor is more beneficial for like assaults and stuff like that. So a lot of the logistics and stuff is done with civilian vehicles, and a lot of the rotation and frontline support is done with like ATVs and stuff like that. Ukrainian information space made fun of that a lot. And now it's the only thing we see the Ukrainians do in the Kursk region and in the Belgorod region. So yeah, thank you for your question. Horses and donkeys with mud don't mix. Well, it depends on what you're dealing with. I mean, is it like it depends on how hard you're running the horse or donkey. It depends on how deep the mud is. Like I said, it's just circumstantial across the entire front. Easier to get unstuck as well. Yep. There's just some things that are, a motorcycle is better in some areas. Sometimes an IFV is what you need in an area because it's just such a hostile situation. Things just change across the front depending. All right, guys. If you have a couple more questions, I will stay on for like the next 5 minutes to see if you guys have any questions to get in. If not, I'm going to wrap it up. I see Russians doing medevacs with ATVs. Yeah, because you can put somebody on the front of it and just gun it out of there. Pack horses have giant hooves. Yes, they do. You should get Patrick Lancaster on. He's on the front reporting for a while. Yeah. I don't have his contact information, so I can just DM him and be like, hey, man, do you want to come on? Might work. You never know. Hey, Scott, do you think Russia will eventually move on Sumy or just threaten it and be in range like Kharkov? Exactly like Kharkov. Yep, the latter. All right, guys. I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you so much. This has been episode 144 of Calibrated with Scott. I love doing these. I love to talk to you guys and see your comments and see your thoughts on things. Please click that like button, click that subscribe if you have not. It is the easiest way to support me. Go follow me on Telegram and Twitter. Those links are in the description of the YouTube video. I appreciate you all so much. Thank you for being in here on my late stream. I will catch you guys maybe this weekend if more updates come out. And if not, a few days after that. All right. Take care. Be safe and enjoy your weekend, everybody. Goodbye.